to do a deep dive into Nvidia shares under pressure today. Joined now by Shana Sissel, founder and president of Bannerin Capital Management. Shana, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Always great to hear from you. So let's talk about Nvidia. It's pulled back. It had hit a new high yesterday, but it's pulled back some. What's your outlook for Nvidia for the balance of the year?
Well, I think a pullback is healthy in the stock right now. Obviously, it's had a lot of momentum. It's run up quite a bit. Its valuation is getting a little frothy, but that's also based on estimates which have been way off to begin with. But I do think it's healthy to see the stock pull back. After it split, you saw a lot of the retail market get into the stock, pushing it further. For the rest of the year, I anticipate that it will kind of take a breather right here, and then it will continue its momentum upwards as long as it continues to report very strong earnings as it has, and there's no reason to believe that that's not going to be the case going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing. It seems like a, kind of healthy reaction to where the trajectory Nvidia has been on to take pause, especially you sent over some notes that help kind of frame this historically, because, when you go through this day by day, you forget some of the history of this with Nvidia. The market cap last year, $754 billion, and you think about where it is today. I mean, it's been just a rocket ship since last year, but they just continue to produce these chips that, many say the demand is outstripping the supply anyway.
With shares up by an eye-watering 25,000% over the last 10 years, it's no surprise that Nvidia relies on stock splits to keep its stock price manageable for retail investors who might not have access to fractional shares. What's even better is that the split did nothing to change Nvidia's $3 trillion market cap, as the company added an extra trillion to its value in just a few months. This caused many Wall Street analysts to reaffirm their bullish stance on Nvidia stock despite its recent pullback and upgrade their price targets after the stock split. One such analyst is Jim Kelleher from Argus Research, who raised his price target on Nvidia stock to $150 from $110, implying an upside of nearly 20% from where the stock is trading now. Another analyst that's bullish on Nvidia stock is Bank of America's Vivek Arya, who also has a $150 price target on the stock, and he even thinks that Nvidia stock is actually undervalued. In today's video, we're going to talk about why the analysts made this call and why investors should be buying more Nvidia shares head over fist. But before we do that, if you want to keep up with Nvidia's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates. Now, back to today's video.
So with Nvidia, before we kind of talk a little bit more about the next layer or the next leg, do you think there's some kind of investor psychology that may be at play here, or if there's some buying fatigue, especially like when you think about the profit margins, where Nvidia is now? Is that potentially a trigger behind some of the profit taking?
Yes, and I personally would not sell the stock here. I think this is a long-term play. If you are somebody who wants to hold a stock for the long term, not everybody does. Some people just want to trade it on momentum and opportunity. If you're a long-term player, I think you hold the stock and take advantage of downturns like today to buy on weakness. Now, that said, I think that it's going to be almost impossible for Nvidia to continue to grow at the pace it's been growing. I saw another analyst on another network point out, and I think it's a valid point, that if you were to go backwards a year and look at what the PE should have been for Nvidia if we had got the earnings right, it would have been like 6 a year ago. But it also grew its earnings 2,000%. And so if you want to look at its current PE, which is about 50 on forward earnings, and say, well, maybe that is not accurate because they're going to do better than that. In order to get to a place where you have to think the stock is cheap, you'd have to assume that it would continue growing at the same rapid rate. And I don't think that is going to be the case. But I also think that we should not be throwing away a stock that is likely to continue to grow over 100% year over year for multiple years in the future.
According to the Argus analyst, he raised his price target thanks to Nvidia's amazing success in the previous fiscal year. adding that in his view, Nvidia is positioned for continued momentum into the next year as well. He thinks that Nvidia stock has much further to go, thanks to the company's positioning within transformational AI technology. And what's even better is that he ended his note saying that he recommends establishing or adding to positions in Nvidia stock, adding that he believes that most tech investors should own Nvidia in the age of deep learning, AI, and GPU-driven applications acceleration. Meanwhile, the Bank of America analyst said in a recent CNBC interview that he doesn't see any signs of a slowdown for the chipmaker. In fact, the analyst argued that Nvidia is very likely to maintain a massive lead in the AI race over the coming years. Bank of America expects Nvidia to maintain its 80% market share, with the analyst saying that the reason is that this is the norm in the tech world. He said that if you look at any part of technology, whether it's social, e-commerce, operating systems, you will see that the leader keeps 80% of the market, and he thinks it's going to be no different in AI. He also talked about how some people compare Nvidia's amazing run to the dot-com boom, pointing out that this is a big mistake. So, let's take a look at what he had to say, and talk about whether Nvidia stock is a buy after its pullback. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Investocracy.
Shares of Nvidia under pressure once again today, ending the week lower by 4%. But our next guest just raised his price target on the stock for the 5th time this year, this time from 125 to 160. Let's bring in Melius Research, head of technology research, Ben Reitzes. Ben, happy Friday. The other two $3 trillion stocks in the market right now had to go through these transition periods, most recently for Apple from iPod to iPhone, for Microsoft from Windows to being a productivity company overall. What's the transition that you think Nvidia has to and can make to maintain and grow this $3 trillion market cap to 4?
Well, I think that they're the closest thing to nailing it in AI so far, obviously, by creating an ecosystem that developers love, and they know they can be relied upon to grow. And that's a really big thing. We are in a paradigm shift, and this is the Microsoft and Apple of those past regimes all combined into one in Nvidia, and that's what you really have to think about and really just starting. So they may have the most runway of all the big ones, but what they need to do is transition more to software, which we're going to see. And also, I think what's really cool, and we wrote about this today, is they could generate over $270 billion in cash over the next 3 years, and nobody talks about that. That's something that can come back to shareholders and really keep the multiple pretty high for a long time. So we like what we're seeing, but eventually people are going to be talking about this massive cash pile.
Vivek Arya of Bank of America recently said that we are currently in the second year of what will likely be a 3 to 5 year deployment cycle for generative AI, which is why he's still really bullish on Nvidia stock. Many want to draw comparisons to the dot-com boom, but that's a mistake, according to the analyst. He said that that era was fueled by debt, whereas the spending in the AI cycle is being done by some of the biggest companies in the world with very healthy balance sheets. He also talked about how some critics think that Nvidia stock is overvalued and explained why he disagreed. The analyst said that the broader S&P 500 is trading around 2 times earnings growth, but Nvidia is actually trading at less than 1 times earnings growth. So, as long as Nvidia continues to execute, the company should be able to keep over 80% of the AI chips market, which Bank of America thinks could triple over the next few years. This is one reason to buy Nvidia stock on the current dip, but it's not the only one. So, let's get into why Nvidia stock still offers a great investment opportunity. But first, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Well, arguably, Ben, only 2 companies became mega caps out of the mobile revolution, right? Apple and Google, and then only 2 became mega caps out of the cloud revolution, Amazon and Microsoft. How many mega caps are we going to get or maintain out of the AI revolution?
Well, we're not sure. I mean, right now, we still think, I mean, obviously software has had a few good days, but NVIDIA is doing something amazing here. They are creating AI factories, which is really code for software factories. And their output is software, it's applications, it's stuff that we take for granted today in a different form. And NVIDIA end goal is to create software on the fly. That's their product that they're going to create with these AI factories. And that's just a ton of value, John. If they get this right, there are trillions of TAM that should go to them, not just the trillion that Jensen talks about. If you're creating software on the fly, eventually, that's very valuable. So, obviously, NVIDIA, we've been talking a lot about Broadcom lately. You probably saw our report there. A lot of folks are looking for the second one. Broadcom's in a really good spot with the CapEx for the custom silicon. So, they're probably the closest one in terms of thinking about who can be next. And then AMD's the dark horse here.
Okay.
On the hardware side, we've been pushing Dell really hard. You know that.
In our opinion, Nvidia's recent pullback shouldn't discourage investors from buying and holding this stock for the long term, as we've seen amazing run-ups from Nvidia before after worse drops, so I wouldn't be too surprised if this happens again. Nvidia is the world's leading AI chip designer, holding 80% of the market. This has helped the company generate triple-digit earnings growth over the past several quarters. But the even better news is there's reason to be confident about Nvidia's growth continuing. In fact, the company's next catalyst is right around the corner with the launch of the potentially game-changing Blackwell architecture and the most powerful chip yet later this year. After this, Nvidia aims to update its chips on an annual basis, suggesting that the company has what it takes to stay ahead of the competition year after year. Nvidia also can continue to succeed over time because it's not depending solely on its chips, the key product powering AI tasks, but also offers customers a whole suite of products and services for AI development. And Nvidia is showing its leadership by being the first to benefit from new AI growth areas like sovereign AI. Nvidia says sovereign AI, which delivered zero revenue last year, may bring in billions of dollars this year. Finally, it's important to keep in mind that the AI market is still in its early days, with analysts predicting growth to more than $1 trillion later this decade. With all of this in mind, we can say that Nvidia stock is still worth the investment and could continue rewarding investors as it soars higher over time. But what do you think about Nvidia stock? Is it a buy at the current price? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to tell us what your valuation for Nvidia is. If you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.